Today's video is for everyone who is wondering whether you should count your calories and track your micros and macros, or whether you should eat intuitively what you feel like and go with the flow. So personally, I don't think there is one right or wrong. I personally rather see it like a spectrum where on the one side you have going with the flow, eating intuitively, and on the other hand you have planning, structuring, tracking, and I think it's different and individual from person to person on which side or where on the spectrum you want to be. I don't think you have to be either black or white. You can be in the middle somewhere, rather on the tracking side, rather on the intuitive side, also depending on what your goals are, where you're at on your journey. For example, when you're just switching to a new way of eating, I think it can be very, very helpful to track a little bit what you're getting, to make sure you're eating enough calories, especially when you switch from a lot of processed foods that are very calorie dense to more plants that have a lot of water content, and where you can, for me, I think it's a big pro, eat a lot more volume. Now it's important to track to make sure you're eating enough. Or when your goal is to release weight and you've been plateauing for some time and you would like to slim down a little bit, then it can be helpful to track just for a couple of days, just to get an idea where you're at. So today I want to give you the benefits of both sides of the coin, the benefits of tracking and the benefits of going with the flow. Let's start with going with the flow. So one big benefit of going with the flow is that you can really follow your joy, your excitement, and what feels good to you in the moment. So especially when you're out and about, you're traveling or you're meeting up with friends and you have a limited amount of options, then it can be so nice to just let yourself be guided. And I've always ended up in amazing places when I've let my intuition guide me. Okay, I just feel like having some food. I'm on a lunch break somewhere in the city or in town. Let me just see what I can find. Go somewhere randomly. I end up in amazing places, amazing Asian stores. I find the best, most delicious fruits. And yeah, I found that whenever I'm traveling and I'm on the road, I keep finding the best stuff. And yeah, so it really allows for a lot of opportunity also to explore new cuisines, to explore new things. Another big benefit that I see with eating intuitively and going with the flow is that your body ultimately has the best answer to what is right for you. So a lot of times we watch all these YouTube videos, we listen and look up to all these health gurus for answers, when in reality, if we just took a moment to tune in with our own body, with our own inner voice, our guidance, then we would actually be able to find much better answers to what's right for us. Of course, there comes a point where maybe it is important to also educate ourselves. There's definitely a time and place for that. And generally, I think it's important to have a balance between looking to others for answers, but also asking your own body, what do you truly need right now? Because even within different types of diets, whether it's raw vegan, plant-based, whole food plant-based, or high carb, or even carnivore. I mean, you know my channel, I'm not a big fan of that, but even within those movements, there are so many different ways of doing a certain lifestyle. So to find your own unique way, your own unique twist that brings you that joy and that excitement, and that is what you need specifically for your type of routine, job. Maybe you have kids, family, maybe you have a different type of sleeping schedule, and it can be so individual for you compared to someone else. I don't think there's a one size fits all. So that to me is also a big reason why generally I find myself gravitating a little bit more on the side to going with the flow, eating intuitively when it comes to a spectrum. But now let's come over to the pros of tracking, because I've also had periods in my life where I would track a lot, and that also was fun, because especially when I first switched to raw foods, I was hugely under eating, not eating nearly enough of what I should have needed. So sometimes I would end up eating maybe 900 or 1,000 calories, not because I felt like, oh my god, I need to restrict or I can't eat that much, but just because I thought, okay, maybe half a watermelon, a few bananas, and a bit of lettuce in the evening is enough. But no, I recently, or not recently, but later on realized that I do need a lot more than that. And for me, tracking was really, really helpful to find out how much do I actually need, because not only did I undereat, but that also led to me having binges at night where I would eat massive portions of things that didn't really make me feel the best the next day because of that prior undereating. So when we start having these cravings for dense, unhealthy foods, then it's already a little bit too late, and we know, okay, maybe I need to adjust my eating routine a little bit. Because ultimately, if you have a dialed in eating routine that's amazing, then you will not end up having any cravings for unhealthy foods or any overeating or binges or cravings. All of that will, of course, I think it also takes a little bit of time in general, because our microbiome craves what we feed it. So when you have been feeding the bacteria in your gut healthy foods for a long time, then that's what it will crave. At least that is how it works for me nowadays. When I'm hungry, the first thing I'm thinking about is usually fruit. So definitely we need some adjustment time, and for that it can be incredibly helpful to track. I remember when I then realized, okay, I do actually need to eat a lot more, I would just start, roughly in my head thinking, okay, one banana is usually around 100 calories, or I don't remember anymore because it's been such a long time, but dates is this and this many calories, potatoes or pasta is this and this many calories. You never just roughly make sure, okay, this is how much I have. I've also had times where I use things like chronometer. And a pro of that is because of marketing addictive substances in the food that we're eating and a lot of misinformation, misguidance that is confusing us, we have kind of somewhat been forced in our society, I believe, to tune out a little bit of our inner voice. And to tune back in, it can be helpful in the beginning to use concepts, to use rules, books, tracking, to get back into sync and to get your body used to what it's meant for. The other aspect is also that when you first want to change a behavior, you want to dial it in a way where nutrition, for example, is just running on autopilot. Because let's be honest, most of us have busy lives. We have jobs, we have responsibilities, we have family. And when all of these things are running, then you want to have the nutrition running in the background rather than it taking up so much space that all of the other things no longer can have the attention of you that they really need. So when you are able to get your nutrition running on autopilot, then you can really focus on the other areas. And for it to start running on autopilot, I think, again, concepts, ideas, inspiration from other people, tracking can be very helpful, with the premises that you always ultimately tune in also with yourself. Does this feel aligned with what I want to do? Does this excite me? Is this something I genuinely want to do? And and then the last point I want to mention also is that, okay, once we have dialed in eating bigger volumes, then I can at least speak from my own experience. For me, the problem is not that I'm not eating enough. And I generally don't think that lack, let's say, protein, nutrients, minerals, so many components that we all want to make sure we get enough of. I personally don't think that not enough is the problem nowadays. Because we live in a world where we have access to supermarkets almost 24/7 some places. We can stock up our fridge so it lasts us for days, and really not enough is generally not the problem. The problem is usually too much. Now, I do want to say, of course, there is a small amount in our population where that really is a problem because of limiting beliefs, not feeling good enough. But generally, I think too much is more the problem for most of us. And I think in that sense, tracking can be helpful because it really allows you to know, like, yeah, hey, I'm getting way more than I need. I'm getting everything, and now I can relax and focus on other things. So overall, to summarize, I don't think it's that black and white and there's no right or wrong. It's more like a spectrum where you need to see, okay, which side of the spectrum do I want? And especially when starting a new endeavor, even if it's not nutrition, with anything, I think in the beginning it is nice to track. Even things like workouts. I like to track it in the very beginning when I'm setting up a new system or a new routine. But then once that's running on autopilot, I don't need to track anymore. I don't need to have a habit tracker of everything I'm doing. But in the beginning, it's fun. It gives you a feeling of accomplishment. And yeah, I think it's amazing. Other than that, I will see you tomorrow on day 3 of this Raw Vegan series. And I hope you have an awesome day. Bye bye.